don't know how it can be a 28-minute bowling ball thing. I am
A portion of this
curious.
video was sponsored by Salesforce. This
Thanks,
is the
Resub.
biggest,
Ectobius.
most in-depth video about bowling ever. How bowling balls are made, the best way to throw
Hey, well,
them,
thank you, OG
maximize
Son, for the big
strikes, how
50.
the lanes are oiled, what it takes to be a pro, and
Yeah, I
how
need to
this
look up
sport
Melty
has
Blood.
continually been reinvented for literally thousands of years up to the present day. This is the science of bowling, the most popular participatory sport in the United States.
What?
I'm super impressed.
Bullshit.
with
How is
I'm
bowling
even
the most
more
popular?
interested than you are.
What is inside a bowling ball? Well, I sent this ball to Creative Electron to get a 3D X-ray scan, and this is the result. What is that? I always expected bowling balls to be, perfect solid spheres, but there's something inside here. And it's not symmetric,
Thanks,
and
Resub
it's not
Rastalan.
even centered in the ball.
Thanks, Koro.
So I went to Storm
Thanks, the
Bowling,
Resub
one of only
Citrus.
11 bowling ball manufacturers in the world, to find out how bowling balls are made.
Yeah, basically when we make bowling balls, we always start in the center, and the center part of the bowling ball is the weight block. And as you can see, this is an example of an asymmetrical shaped weight block. So it's actually a different shape about the X, the Y, and the Z axes.
I guess I never really stopped to think how bowling balls were made.
The weight blocks are embedded in a core of lightweight glass beads.
Oh,
I just assumed it was like a
so
giant
silky soft.
sphere of
I feel like I have not felt anything this
cement.
What's the difference in density between this sort of filler material and this core?
It's quite a bit, about 2.5 to 3 times more dense in the inner weight block than it is in the core material.
Oh, some are.
If you were to look, for example, at this actual core, number one, it says 960, which means that it weighs 9.60 pounds. And then the description here underneath, which is the 03, this indicates what type of a weight block is inside of it.
What happens over here?
So this area right here is our urethane area. So basically what we have are a number of different tanks that are set up. So there's a chemical reaction that occurs once it actually fills the mold.
And you did how it's
That
made
covers
on them
rock
for bowling
material
balls?
around the core. It gets extremely hot in just a matter of minutes. You go right down here, she's actually pouring the pin material inside the tops of those cores. So you can see for this particular bowling ball, it's a bright orange type of a material, and she's actually filling that hole with that plug material. We've got the lathe right here, which is where we
Thanks to the
take
Prime
the balls that
Protagonist.
come out of the mold. Then we actually
Yeah,
spin
I heard
almost
about
2,000
Farfa.
RPMs. On top of there's the blades that come around, and it actually makes the balls perfectly round. So they'll actually trim those up.
Since the balls are not symmetric, they are heavier on one side than the other.
And you can see there the last 4 or 5 pumps of air,
Is it
where it
Resub
actually
Andrew?
floats the air, then it stops and pauses, that the ball has completely settled. And then basically a needle will
I would have
come out
never
from the
thought
bottom
they'd make
part,
every
and
bowling
all of a
ball by
sudden it'll
hand. Well,
shoot
not
up,
by hand.
and it'll be
But
where
like
the
having
gravity
so
is.
much on-hand
Surface
work
of the ball.
done.
When it comes right off the lathe, right here, it is extremely porous and very, very dull, and there's a ton of friction between the ball and the lane at this point. So every ball from right here will be smoothed up. It's just a matter of how much it's going to be smoothed up in order to get what is the desired finish.
But before they can use these balls, they have to be drilled. But
There's
that
a
is
tier 1
specific to each
Andro.
bowler.
How many balls are you making a day?
We're making over 3,000 balls in a day now that come out of this plant right here.
That's pretty fucking impressive. Thanks to Prime Big Mo.
Wild. I found the bowling ball equivalent of clickbait. You won't believe your eyes. The mind-bending hook.
Right?
Yeah, it's how you have to sell your stuff.
Thanks to Resub
Exactly,
Ryan.
yeah.
But how did it come to be this way? Well, bowling seems to be an ancient game.
Bullshit.
Archaeologists have found wall drawings of a sport that looks like bowling
Ancient
in an
Egyptian?
tomb dating back 7,000 years.
This is not
In
bowling.
Germany,
This is a...
bowling was used as a religion.
That was absolutely not bowling. Those don't look like pins. They look like little butt plugs. That was absolutely some kind of like kinky orgy kind of shit. Though to be fair, this looks kind of cool. I can already imagine the trick shots you could do.
In Germany, Bowling was used as a religious ritual.
I can't imagine it
Pins
actually be ancient
represented
Egyptian.
your sins, so you were a
Use
good
tier 1
Christian
dirty
if you could
laundry
knock
and
them
tier
all
1
down.
guac.
Martin Luther
Use of
himself
Donnie.
was apparently a bowling fanatic and fixed the number of pins at 9. When the game made its way over to America, 9-pin bowling was banned because it promoted gambling. The legend goes that people cleverly came up with 10-pin bowling to get around the law. Whoa, totally different game. Today in the US, 9-pin bowling is only played in Texas because it was the one state that didn't ban it, instead charging a tax. Bowling lanes are about 3.5 feet wide and 60 feet long down to the head pin. I'm using imperial units here because that's actually how they're defined. The
I
lane
prefer
is
freedom
made
units.
of 39 narrow boards that bowlers number for reference. They used to be made of maple and pine wood, but these days most lanes are synthetic and made of fine particles coated with melamine resin. One game of bowling gives you 10 frames with 2 throws per frame to try to knock down all 10 pins. The highest score you can get in a game without a strike is only 190. But strikes allow you to double count your next 2 throws.
My highest
so
game is a
perfect game with all
232.
strikes gives you a score of 300. If you're anything like me, the whole game is just trying to throw the ball as straight as you can down
Bowling
the middle
is
of the
not
lane,
dumb.
hit the head
It's
pin,
fucking
and try to
great.
take as many other pins down with it as possible.
Do you want to give me any tips? Or
I've watched LeBron bowl.
He's
It
a
won't be
prime
worse than
chili.
him.
you say that now. See, that's what I would normally do. And I would normally be like reasonably happy with a shot like that.
That was
For
garbage.
pro bowlers
Holy
like Pete
fuck.
Weber or Chris Barnes,
For a perfect game.
Pete Weber's the
the
best.
game is different.
Who do you
Not
think
just
you
because
are?
they're
I
way better
am.
than me.
God damn it, that's right.
Who do you think you are? I am. Damn it right.
Hitting the head pin square on is not the perfect strategy. If you hit the head pin square on going straight, you're unlikely to knock down all the pins. You could end up with a split where the ball goes through the middle, or with the ball deflecting off to one side after hitting the head pin. Chances for a strike are much higher if the center of the ball hits the pins just to one side of the head pin.
That's
or
right,
it's
baby.
17.5. In which case, the ball takes out the 1, 3, 5, and 9 pins, which take out the
Bowling, I
others.
think, is just so
So we
easy.
want the ball to hit the 1 pin.
Just throw some
3,
fucking lumber
pin
down
behind
there,
it,
like a
which is the 5 pin,
15-pounder, get a
and
little
then the
spin on
9
it.
Or the 8 and the 9.
You want
It's
the ball to
GG.
hit all of those pins.
Yeah.
Now the pins don't always fall this way, but the pin shape helps. Pins roll in circles like eggs, which help knock down the others.
Amateur.
7 pin. Yeah, that's right, baby. Come on, don't miss. You wanted it, you got it.
But to have
There's
an
use
over
of Dark
90%
Atlas
chance
in the
of getting a
prime
strike,
Lana
the
ball.
center of the ball has to hit with
Oh,
an
sweet. Well,
error
thank you,
smaller than
protagonist.
half a board. Needless to say, throwing a ball 60 feet straight at a target smaller than a dime is a tough task, especially to do it consistently.
Nah, it's
Luckily,
pretty fucking
there
easy.
is a better way.
Now, if we look at the pins, and as you look at them from here, from straight on, the spot between the head pin, the one that's in the center,
Is
and
it
the
tier 1
3 pin, which is just right
cheeseburger?
of that gap's pretty narrow. But as the ball hooks more, now we basically shift over, and now that space is considerably wider.
If you can hit the pins not head on, but at an angle of 6 degrees, you dramatically increase your chances of knocking them all down. Now the margin for
Is
error
Yusuf gonna
is
barf
greater.
in 2
The ball
cans
can be
and
coming in
PJ?
anywhere from board 17 to 18.5. That is a board and a half of room, and that still gives you greater than a 90% chance of a strike. Now 6 degrees may not sound like a lot, but it's actually extremely difficult to hit. The problem is, if you wanted to throw
This
the
is some
ball
bowling
straight at the pins and
propaganda.
hit
It's
them at
not.
6
It's not
degrees,
hard.
you would have to be bowling from 3/4 over on the next lane. And that is impossible, what with the 2 gutters in between and all. So the solution is, you've got to curve the ball on 1 lane.
I feel like I have never spun a ball.
He's the bits balling.
Is that hard?
So if you got it under your hand and the ball's underneath, and you're trying to spin it,
Yep.
that's basically the motion that players use these days.
Make a bowling
This
video?
really became
When
a
I
big
was
part of the
active on
sport.
Snapchat, I used to have a lot of bowling
The wood
clips
gets
with my
beat
friends
up,
and I would go and drink.
Damage from all the balls going.
I'd always
into
go
it.
over
And so
200.
they basically created slip agents, lubricants, much like oil in a car, so that the lanes didn't get.
I haven't
damaged.
been in like 6 years though.
So the original idea was to.
Who knows?
protect
Maybe
the
now I
wood.
The
suck at
original
it.
idea was just to protect the surface of the lane. It was not to manufacture anything from a competitive scoring type environment.
But applying oil to protect the wood meant that balls no longer gripped the lane
Thanks to
and
the
rolled
gift sub
without
Zoink
slipping
and
down
resub
to pins.
Picarelli.
Instead, they could skid, rotating not in their direction of travel. Now, I've been to a lot of bowling alleys before making this
Oh,
video,
yeah, I'm nutty at
and
this.
I noticed it was a bit greasy, but I always thought that was just the nature of bowling alleys, like the stinky rental shoes. I didn't know they intentionally put oil on the lanes. Vox has a great video specifically about oil patterns. These days, there are machines specifically for applying oil to the lanes.
And then as proprietors went, huh, well, yeah, it does make the ball skid. Well, if I put more in the middle than the outside, well, my bowlers bowl a little bit better and they're happier.
Thanks to the
And then
gift
as
sub Super
technology
Goat.
advances, like everything does, now we have $30,000 lane machines that can put a specific amount of oil on each board.
They work kind of like
The
dot
resub-
matrix printers.
and the
They
resub
can
super
lay the
goat.
oil on with varying degrees of thickness across the lane and extend the oil pattern different distances. There are hundreds of different patterns that can be used. Usually, the oil extends about 2/3 the way down the lane, so to around 40 or 45 feet. But there's always a dry patch of wood before the pins that increases the friction with the ball, getting it to start rolling without slipping. And
Yep,
this leads
I
to
knew
the
that.
3 parts of any pro bowler's throw: the skid, the hook, and the roll.
They make it sound much more
When a
impressive than
bowler
it
releases
actually
the ball, it can be
is.
going 20 miles
If
an
I
hour
was shitty
and
at bowling, my
spinning
mind would be
500
blown. I'd be like, oh my god, this is the
It's
hardest sport
nearly
ever.
10 full
I'm
revolutions
fucking
per
nutty at
second.
bowling, and none of this
Right-handers
goes into my
would throw
head.
The ball to the right on the lane while spinning it to the left. During the skid phase, the ball slides down the
Thanks to
lane,
Tier 1
spinning,
J,
but
and the
not
resub
rolling.
Shadow Dragon,
As it
Alex,
comes to the
and
end
Lil
of the
T.
oil, the friction
Let me see, hold on. Surely someone saved my old bowling Snapchats when we used to go like every Friday and drink. Let me see. Give me one sec. I used to post them on Snapchat all the time. My record was 8 strikes in a row. And it would have been 9 too if I didn't get fucking robbed on the, what was it, like the 4th frame or something? Where would I find my old Snapchats? Would someone have put them on YouTube maybe? I know some people have my old Snapchats there, but I don't know about the bowling ones. Let's see. I don't see it. Thanks to the resub Anubis, Mark, and Vincent. Yeah, I could just go bowling and film it, I guess. I don't think it'd be a good video, though. I'd probably just film and then post it on, like, Huge Charles channel or something. Because I'm just, like, actually good at bowling, so it's not really fun. It's more fun to be shitty at something. Thanks to the resub Trill.
Increases,
Maybe
and
I'll
the
do it
ball
tomorrow.
accelerates to the left. It hooks because of its spin, and the spin starts lining up with the direction
There's a
of
pic of
travel
you getting a
leading to
205
stage
on
3.
Reddit. Oh, I
Roll.
didn't check Reddit. Maybe it'd be on Reddit. 205 was on the lesser side of things. I could consistently get 210 and above. But I could never really go over 232. To go over 232, you needed like a pretty close to perfect game. That 232 was my 8 strikes in a row game. Let's see. What did you type in to find that pic of the 205? Thanks, Resub Armada. Thanks, a tier 1 Killer Light. Homemade bowling with dildo pins would be pretty cool. Thanks, the Resub Squeaker. Charlie is a god at bowling. Okay. God damn, has it really been 5 fucking years? And they didn't get any of my old videos? Obviously I was poopy. I think Andrew was Wiener. I don't remember who No Wiener was. But yeah, I mean, I was able to get absolutely nuts at bowling. Like, look at this game. Like, just take a look at this game. There's only one open frame. Frame 8 is my only open frame. Everything else is a strike or a spare. And it's a 205. So to get like a 300 or over 250 is a disgusting game. I know, I'm so gross at bowling. I really am, for some reason, super good at bowling. We'd go like every Friday, we'd drink a little, we'd toss a couple meat cannonballs down there, blow up the pins. It was fun. I haven't been since college, though. Pros average 230 to 250. They also play on different lanes. These are obviously public lanes, so they're oiled differently. I'm definitely not pro level.
Without slipping as it
But just pub stomping? Yeah.
Ideally, as close to that
I can do.
angle as possible.
Like the ball starts on the left side of the lane, goes straight across almost rightmost, then hooks like at the last minute, and rolls in there. So that's almost like a perfect shot, right? Like straight in the pocket there.
Yeah, that's where you want to hit the pins, yeah. My very first game, it was ABC back then, American Bowling Congress.
1v1 Mr. Beast bowling. Oh, do you think I could hustle Mr. Beast into that competition? That'd be the freest money of my life.
And they handed me $100.
Hey, Pete.
And it was like, yeah, making money now. Actually, my first, my sixth, my ninth, my 13th, 17th, 20th were all 300 games. I had like 7 or 8 300s in my first year of men's league.
God
How do you
damn.
explain that?
To shoot 300, you have to get lucky somewhere along the line.
Not true. Or you could just be good like me. Though I've never got a 300.
Like that. It came in to hit the 1-3-5-9. And that's what we call the perfect shot.
I mean, you just keep hitting them.
Not me.
That's almost the identical shot.
Very
Look
close,
at that.
yeah.
That yellow and the purple, they're almost exactly
Easy
on top
resub
of each
Snoo
other.
Snoo, and the prime
Oh, it just goes a
Zelfinium,
little
and
straight.
resub Armpit
one-
and
the
Burial,
purple
and
one was
Wick,
just
and
a
Tier
little
1
bit higher
Aria,
on
and the
the
resub
head pin.
Enchilada.
But it still hit the 1, 3, and the 5, and the 9. Can't get much better.
This type of throw is only possible because of the oil. If you try to throw a ball the same way on an unoiled lane,
Oh no.
it just doesn't work.
Can I actually ask you to bowl like you normally would, but on the dry lane?
All of a sudden, Pete's
I know
gonna
it's
lose the
crazy.
able to
I
bowl
just wanna see
forever.
what like a normal shot would look like if there
You're
was
scaring
no
him.
oil there.
No oil, it's going to hit the lane and go in the left gutter.
That's what I want to see.
All right.
You're gonna throw it just like it's a
Don't do
regular
it, Pete!
Yeah.
It's like in Space Jam, it's gonna sap all of your ability out. Now he sucks.
Well, yeah, there's no oil on the lane, so the ball can't get down. As soon as it hits the lane, it's going to start hooking. You know, 'cause
He's
if
Tier
you
1
do
Snorlax
this,
and resub
who's going to want to bowl on
Mythala.
this?
So they want the oil.
Yeah, we need the oil.
What do you mean, Mago?
If we didn't have
You
oil,
paint?
this is what it would be. And
I just pulled up
nobody'd
one of
have
my
fun.
scores. I'm unironically gross at
This
bowling.
is
Well,
not
bowling
fun.
sucks. We don't want to do this.
For pro bowlers, the oil on the lane is a key part of the game.
Oh, wow. Wow, hey.
Do you like look at the oil? Or are you trying to scope it out, or are you just kind of guessing?
I usually don't look at the oil. I let my ball be the guide. You know, I know some guys that are, you know, they get down like this and they're looking.
Damn, he's flexible. He's nimble. Goddamn.
They're seeing the same thing I do when I sit down and I go like that. Nothing. I see absolutely nothing.
Whether you can see
Amateur.
it or not, figuring out the condition of oil on the lane can make the difference between a strike and a miss. As the game wears on, the bowling balls move the oil around, pushing it further down the lane and stripping it off, the most common paths.
God damn it, I want to go
Some
bowling
players
now.
have
Son
to
of a
adjust to the
bitch.
changing conditions. Some people say left-handers have an advantage because, well, right-handers aren't playing on their side of the lane. At most bowling alleys, they use a pattern of oil that is thicker in the middle and thinner out toward the edges. This is a forgiving
Nice
layout
to resub
because balls that drift
Rager
too far
and
out
Jabibi.
start to hook earlier,
Prime Slim.
while balls going straighter can continue down the lane for longer before making their turn into the pins. But for pro bowlers, the oil conditions vary.
This is what I was
Players
saying.
have to
Yeah.
adjust their games to the conditions.
Some people seem to think that like league bowlers are better than they are, maybe, because they say like, oh, this league bowler can shoot 210, and I just saw a pro shoot 210.
That's why they call it league, because you bowl on the same shot every week. Because each week on tour, I'm bowling on a different condition, not the same condition every week. We have like cheetah, chameleon, scorpion, shark. and
Stupid
one more.
names.
Bear, yeah.
But it's not just the oil on the lanes that has transformed bowling. It's also the balls themselves.
I knew all of
Bowling
this.
balls was what
Like I
started
said,
with,
I was fucking
maybe
nuts at bowling.
mid-70s, and
Did you know
yellow dot,
Matt was
and
actually
yellow
a
dot,
league bowler
plastic ball.
when
Then
he
they
was
came out with urethane
fuck,
bowling
he must have been like
balls.
14 or
I won
15.
a lot of titles with the urethane stuff. And then they come out with the reactive resin bowling.
He was on a whole bowling
Reactive
team.
resin
He still
is
has his
just a
custom bowling
modified
balls.
polyurethane with a more porous surface, which gives it more grip in the oil. It's the most popular
resub
surface
robotic
or
in the
cover
gift sub.
stock for bowling balls today.
Nicodemus in
Balls
the
started
resub
out as
squone.
perfect symmetrically weighted spheres, and when you go to a bowling
Is he better?
alley,
No, I'm
the
actually better.
house balls there are still just
When we used
that.
to bowl
But
together
when you drill
back in
holes
college,
the ball,
I was
you
consistently
take some
better.
weight out of one side. So to rebalance it, ball manufacturers added a small pancake weight on the same side as the holes. But then ball manufacturers got the idea they could add different weights inside the ball to improve their performance. You can have two balls that look identical from the outside, weigh exactly the same amount, and yet roll differently. If the mass is more concentrated around the axis of rotation, say you have a dense cylinder inside the
Bowling
ball,
stream win?
well,
I wouldn't
then
stream
has
it, but
a
I'll film
lower
it.
moment of inertia. And this means for the same amount of energy input, it will spin
I don't think it'd be a
faster.
fun stream.
In
I don't
bowling,
like
they
streaming in
prefer to
public.
talk
I would
about
never
an
do it.
analogous concept, radius of gyration, or RG. If you were to concentrate the entire mass of the ball onto a hoop with the same moment of inertia, its radius would be the radius of gyration. So smaller radius of gyration just means lower moment of inertia, which translates into more rotation that a bowler can get on the ball.
Some people at lower rev rates, they go, well, it just spins faster. Like,
They're not even
That's
talking
kinda
about
crazy.
different bowling techniques. There's a two-handed
They're
technique
studying
that I
it.
would use sometimes if my wrist was
yeah,
kind of
it's like
hurting.
8%, you know,
And
for
there's a
every
professional who
0.05.
uses it. I forgot his name.
And so depending on what your rev
His
rate
name's
is,
like
it can be fairly
Dominic
significant.
Tiddlywink or something.
An
I don't
ability to
remember.
spin the balls faster
There's
gives
a cool
bowler
two-handed
the
technique.
ability to hook the ball more sharply further down the lane, giving them a better chance of achieving that 6-degree entry angle. What was amazing for me to learn is that the weight blocks in these balls aren't even
No,
centered.
so you go like
There's a
you
heavy
put two
side
fingers
and
in
a
the
lighter
top
side
and your
on
other hand
purpose.
on the other side,
can
and then you just
find and
rip
mark
it.
this side by letting the ball spin freely on a cushion of air
He's a prime
until
nanny.
it comes to rest heavy
Here,
side down.
I'll find the guy's name. He's like the only two-handed pro bowler. He's pretty good too. Yeah, there he is, Belmonte. It's not this guy, but this guy looks fucking awesome. He looks like a character I would have created in Skate 3. It's the other guy that he's playing against. That's him.
I like it a lot.
See, he's a two-handed bowler. I'd do that if my wrist was hurting.
This is why we were so jacked up for this one. Headpin goes to the sidewall, comes flying off, and
Man,
slams
thinking about it
into
now,
and says,
I was
"Where's our money
fucking
you owe me?"
gross.
Otherwise known as strike track 23.4 on the right lane. Hey Rob, what's Australian for him?
They showed me a great demonstration of
He's
how
the
the
prime
position of
serene,
the
the
center of
resub
gravity can
Shrikery.
affect the movement of the ball. When the center of mass is on the left side of the ball, it pulls in the same direction as the spin, helping the ball hook to the left into the pins.
Same
Is the
exact
resub
ball,
Nihao?
same numbers, just different static imbalance, basically.
But here is
Whatever,
a flip
nerd.
bowling ball.
Just let me
The
throw
center of
something
mass
heavy
is
down
on
there.
the right. Now the ball starts to hook into the left, but at the end something weird happens.
No.
The center of mass pulls it over to the right.
Is the resub
This
silver?
effect is only really noticeable when the ball is thrown slowly. These days, there are tons of different weight blocks that go inside bowling balls, and they can be grouped into two categories.
Could you bowl at 200 right
symmetric
now?
and
I don't know. I
asymmetric.
haven't been in 6 years
For
or
all these
5
weight
years.
blocks, the minimum moment of inertia, or in bowling
I
terms,
think I
the
could.
smallest RG axis, is identified by a pin, which is visible on the outside of the ball. It will
Bowling
spin
isn't
most
something you just
easily
forget
about
how
this
to do.
axis. For the symmetric weight blocks, the ball doesn't change as you rotate it about
There's
this
some
axis.
mid-coy and tier
So
1
the
notch
maximum moment of inertia
notch Volk.
is rotating about any axis that passes through the
I have no idea,
equator
minus.
of the ball. I certainly didn't expect bowling balls to have asymmetric cores.
Thanks for 5 gift
but
subs,
it
Mac.
turns out
Good to
what
see you
look
again.
like
Hope you're doing
perfect
well.
spheres actually have 3 different principal axes of rotation: minimum moment of inertia, maximum moment of inertia, and intermediate moment of inertia.
So this right here is our dart code. This is one of our asymmetric balls that has a rad4 core in it. So this has a preferred spin.
Whatever that means. Alright, give me the
What we're gonna
dart
do now is
core.
We're going to put it on the determinator.
You know what?
and show how it actually will
I'll
spin.
start the Moist
No
Esports
matter how
Bowling
we
League,
position it on there.
and it'll just be me and Matt.
So you spin them up on this machine until
I'm
they
the Moist
settle into
Esports
the way
poker
they like
player
to
and
spin,
bowler.
what the bowlers call their preferred spin axis, or PSA. But why would you want a ball to be an asymmetric top? Well, professional bowlers drill their balls so that at launch, the axis of rotation is somewhere between the minimum and maximum moment of inertia.
I just use house
And
balls.
as a result,
None of this
as
matters
the ball
to me.
goes down the lane spinning, it precesses like a gyroscope. The axis of
Thanks for your some
rotation
brave booty and
rotates
misfit.
around, causing the point of contact between the
Oh,
ball
sweet. Well,
and
thanks,
the lane
John.
to change.
Hope everything's alright.
This precession means that different parts of the ball contact the lane. And you can see this when the ball comes back by the spread out lines of oil
What
on the
poundage
ball
do pro
surface.
bowlers use?
Bowlers call this track flare.
Does
and
anyone
it's
know? I don't
desirable
remember.
because it means once the ball hits the
He's
unoiled
a
part
prime
of the
Michael.
lane, it gets traction faster and hooks more
14 to
dramatically back
16?
the
Okay.
pins. This is
I
what
use
asymmetric
16
cores are
exclusively.
used for. They have larger differences
15
between
to
their
16.
moments of
16
inertia
at the
in
bowling
different
alley has
axes, or what bowlers call RG differential, which makes the ball precess. If you spin a ball around its minimum or maximum
That's the
moment of
secret.
inertia,
As long as it's
it
heavy, you'll
precesses
just blow that
less,
shit
and
up.
There's much less flare, meaning oil builds up on one part of the ball. This reduces the friction over the dry part of the lane, so the ball hooks less.
See the oil there very faintly, but it's pretty much next to
Thanks
the
for some
finger,
Nubinator.
right next to the thumb, and it just continues.
I know Kenny vs.
to be
Spinny.
right
Can't
that
click
way,
links, but I
all
know
the way
it.
around the ball.
But
Thanks for
how
some
important
Gavin and
are
Dylan.
each of these factors in actually getting the best shot? Well, the U.S. Bowling Congress, or USBC, the governing body that sets all rules and regulations for U.S. bowling, they did a landmark study in 2008 trying
Thanks
to
for some
tease
Callum.
out the most significant factors that affect ball motion. In order to determine the impact of each factor, they had to make sure the throws were identical. So they turned to Harry. At the time,
Harry!
the most consistent bowler in the world. He is a robot.
Oh.
Bowling robots are designed to be able to throw hundreds of identical shots.
Imagine being
In
a
fact, the
robot that can
Earl,
only bowl.
Harry's successor in 2011, actually lost to Chris Barnes when he debuted, in part because his throws were so consistent. He wore away the oil in a single part of the lane, so his shots hooked too much. The people managing him did their best to adjust to the oil conditions, but few people are Chris Barnes. The USBC ball motion study
Thanks,
used
Recent
Harry to
Dark
throw
Puppy.
thousands of shots with different bowling balls, and they found that the center of gravity affected the ball motion relatively little, around the same level as environmental factors like room temperature or humidity. RG and RG differential, essentially the moment of inertia and difference
Thanks,
between
Recent
maximum
Ethan.
and minimum moments of inertia, that affected the ball motion significantly more. But the factor that affected ball motion the most was the surface of the ball. The top 5 individual
Here's a tier
factors
1
were the
Lakiksi.
amplitude of surface roughness, meaning the height of microscopic spikes on the ball, the coefficient of friction with an oiled lane, the surface roughness by spacing, that is the distance between microscopic spikes, the coefficient of friction with a dry lane, and how quickly the ball surface absorbs oil. Now, bowlers recognize just how important the surface of their ball is. They
Yeah, that's why
pay
they
close
like
attention to what it's made of
coddle
and
it.
how it's finished.
And
Rougher
rub it
finishes
down.
give the ball more traction in the oil and get it to start hooking earlier. This is useful for long oil patterns and slower
Thanks, your
axis
sub
rotation.
smeg magician.
Sometimes maybe I'll go to.
Your sub smeg magician.
Sometimes maybe I'll go to a little more sanded ball or a little more ball with surface to get it into a roll quicker for me because I use a lot of oil.
These two shots are thrown identically. The only difference is the ball on the left has a rougher surface. Rough surfaces act like winter tires, helping to dig into the oil and give the ball traction. They also act as badly as winter tires on a clean road on a totally dry lane. They actually have less friction because their rougher exteriors mean that less surface area is touching the lane.
These pro bowlers are
You can
pretentious.
get many
I mean, they've
different levels
mastered the
of
sport.
smoothness up to a near
They
mirror shine.
they're knowledgeable. I
This
wouldn't
is
say it's
better for
pretentious.
short oil
They're
patterns
just
to prevent
knowledgeable.
the ball hooking too much too early. Ultimately, pro bowlers carry many different balls to each competition.
I'm not afraid to change balls in the middle of a game. If I go to a game and I've got like 8 spare, all right, it's time to change balls.
Yeah.
So now I got to find the right ball to
Thanks
get
for
down the
some merch
lane
house.
again and find the pocket, which usually I have a pretty good idea.
So they select their ball a little like a golfer selects their club to suit the conditions. But does all this tech actually make people better bowlers?
Nope.
Well, over the last 20 years, average scores have increased by more than 5 points. Plus, the number of perfect 300 games bowled per year per 1,000 bowlers has increased dramatically since the 1980s. This graph shows the
That's a
year
fucking
over
lie.
year.
I don't believe it.
In 1976,
wrong.
soaker balls chemically softened to absorb oil and hook more, were banned, and there was a dip in perfect games.
What?
But the same year, a new rubber ball was introduced, the Brunswick LT48,
Thanks, Prime.
and more 300s
Revenge.
were hit in the years that followed. In 1991, reactive resin balls were introduced, and there was another significant jump. Now, obviously, there were other improvements in equipment and natural variability, but some of the big changes do correlate with the introduction of new ball technology. So, yes, the wild bowling ball
I
technology
think
out
it's
there,
not the
especially
technology,
anything
it's
to do
just
with
us
surface,
being
significantly
stronger.
affect ball motion
We throw
and
heavy
your
objects
bowling ball.
faster now.
But ball motion is likely minutely affected by hundreds of other factors. Even the color of the ball can have a small impact. A USBC study in 2016 found that different pigments absorb oil at different rates. Bowling is the sport of reinvention. It goes back to ancient Egypt, but has transformed many times. Now, when you get up to throw a single
There's the
shot, you have to
resub
think about
Ninja and
the
Lurks.
oil pattern on the lane, the stage of the game and how the pattern has shifted, the weight block in your ball, whether you want symmetric or asymmetric, which axis you'll spin it about to affect precession, where the center of mass is to pull the ball to the left or the right, where the cover stock is made of, and whether it's rough or smooth, all to make a shot that skids, hooks, and rolls to the pins between boards 17 and 18.5 at as close to a 6-degree angle as you can muster. Now do that again 12 times in a row, and you have a perfect game.
Fuck yeah. Well, I want to go bowling. I don't know if that was like the point of the video, but I definitely want to get back out there on the lanes. Is that the only picture from my old Snapchat? No one saved any of the videos or anything? I'm actually fucking offended. God damn it. What a fucking shame. Thanks to resub Leche and Zephyrd. There's a new Slap Mountain. I can't decide if I want to watch it tonight or not. Thanks to the resub Tay. Stupid horror YouTube videos. I love shitty horror. Do you have a suggestion? Actually, just save it for a second. Let me go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.